gentlemen, and the 3.2% of ladies watching. Tonight we feast on the labor of others, because the RuneScape community has blessed us once again. Just check this out. If that doesn't bring back memories, you missed out on a whole era of RuneScape. But can you believe that this is actually footage of old school RuneScape? This is HDOS. It's a fan-made client, really a restoration project, to implement the HD graphics from 2008 into old school. You might have seen the video I did back in February about RuneScape's HD client race. Back then there was speculation that any of the 3 clients I featured would ever be finished, but now that race is over. At least, kind of. While HDOS is now, as of May 28th, in an open public beta, it is still yet to be approved by Jagex. We'll be talking about that, along with if it's safe, what does it do well, what does it not do well, and what the heck is it even about to begin with. So if you're curious about this client, make sure you hit that like button and consider subscribing. We're really coming up close on 100,000. On top of that, we're taking a step back from all the VPN ads, because we've finally got some stuff made. What do you think about this Jad statue? Might look good on your desk, right? Maybe it would even look good on your shelf. We've got other things too, like Zook, Bob the Cat, and Chinchampas. Each one is pressure casted and they're hand painted using a combination of airbrushing and hand brushing. So if you ever wanted to bring RuneScape into the physical world while supporting my channel at the same time, well now you can. And it's your lucky day because for the next 7 days, you can get 15% off any in-stock item by using the special link in the description or coupon code HD on checkout. Thank you guys so much, and let's get back to the video. So what's even going on here with HDOS? Well, it's been in development by a small group of players for over a year now. They've been diligently working to restore the HD graphics as they were in 2008. It's actually a really impressive feat, but we'll get to that. For literally months they were in closed beta. A group of over 400 players had access to that, myself included, though my contribution only extended to being one video. But the other people were reporting bugs and the developers were diligently fixing them. And now, having made a ton of fixes, they've released it to the public for free as an open beta. But being a beta, there's still a few kinks in the system. So I asked the developers what the client currently does well. They told me that as is, 99% of the content is playable. And this is actually a big feat. I mean, I don't know the actual technicalities of building a client like this, but there's a lot of custom content in old school. Heck, there's an entire continent that didn't exist in 2008. I really like this example of how they upscaled Tecton to fit into the HD graphics. They've had to do this with a ton of old school exclusive content. Anyways, they told me that their goal for open beta was just to increase the resolution of content, and that they think they've hit that goal. I've got to completely agree. When this was in the early days of closed beta, there were so many bugs that would break your immersion, but now it's nearly seamless. You can really get lost in this world. It feels so authentic and genuine that when you're playing, you forget what old school actually looks like. It really feels like this is a Jagex product, not a third-party client. That said, that is what they currently do well. I also wanted to know what they're not doing well, that is, what they aim to improve in the future. They told me that there's still some graphical bugs. In fact, in their Discord, there's a whole channel dedicated to these funny little happenings. But on top of that, the client is actually CPU bound, meaning that all that fancy hardware you got will not make it perform any better than the minimum spec required. They told me that specifically is something they've already started on improving. On top of that, they're working with their Discord community, specifically the artist in there, to texture more and more of that old school RuneScape unique content. And then finally, the big one, plugins. You know, a lot of people say they love the graphics of HD clients, but realistically, RuneLite offers way too many quality of life features, so if they were ever going to make the switch, those would have to be there first. Now, HDOS is a restoration project first and foremost, so plugins are not their main goal, but they understand the need, and they've even already implemented a few of the basic ones. Those being ground markers, UI scaling, which is so important, that's a recent addition, tile hovering, and player markers. There's some other fun ones too, like fog, but those are the main ones. So that's where the client's currently at and a little bit about where it's going. But the next big question is, what does Jagex think about it? This is very important because the mass adoption of any third-party client is very reliant on approval from Jagex. That said, HDOS has been out for a week at the time of me recording this. They've reached out to Jagex through the official channels 2 times now, but they haven't heard anything back. So the next best thing we have is the live stream former Jagex moderator Matt K did at the start of June. He talked a little bit about what Jagex will likely be looking for. So let's take a listen.
Yeah, Jagex haven't said anything about this. I think they're probably just waiting and seeing what it's like. Yeah, the reason I never got excited about HD clients was because it was a very difficult problem to solve and make it look good, as in make it look professional so that it looked like a professional game. Savia asked about my thoughts on it. They've done an amazing job. It looks professional, it looks good. I mean, what Jagex will want to see is there's a few cleaning up bits that need to happen. So we found a few areas of Z fighting, which looks like you're getting on these windows here as well. Yeah. So these bits here that you can see flickering, but very, very few compared to how many I thought you'd get. The difficult stuff's been done. It's now tidying it up through some of the areas. There may be code reviews that need to happen. So looking at the code, what does the code do? Is it up to the standard that it needs to be? How does it work from an entire IP of RuneScape? Does this muddy the waters into what's old school, what's RuneScape 3? Will you get people coming from RuneScape 3 to want to play this version of it? And the players in RuneScape 3 are worth more to them than they are in old school. So there's that angle they're going to think about. One other thing is, by saying nothing about it, they're not committing themselves to any decisions. So they can just ignore it, and just if people use it, use it.
Another big known concern, well, let me put it this way. Back in 2017, there was another HD client. A friend did a video on that client, and then the day after, his account was banned. That client ended up being not approved by Jagex. The problem was that it made the player look like a bot. It was creating false positives in the anti-botting system. That creates more work for Jagex. That's a red light, halt the operation, stop it, we don't want it. So from the very start, HDOS has been very conscientious of programming their client in a way not to create this problem, and so far they've had great success. Again, over 400 people in the closed beta, testing over a period of 8 months, and not a single one was banned. Things are certainly looking good if we can get Jagex to start having a discussion with the developers of HDOS. In fact, they told me they just want to have a discussion with Jagex about their goals, make sure that none of them are going against what Jagex wants, because at the end of the day, they want what is best for old school RuneScape, and they don't want to accidentally, unintentionally, do something that will end up hurting the game. So hopefully that line of communication opens up soon. It's still quite early. The last concern, is this client safe to use? Is your RuneScape account going to get hacked? Is your computer going to get ratted? Anything like that? Well, HDOS is actually currently censored on Reddit. If you try to talk about HDOS on Reddit, your posts will be deleted. And if you reach out to the moderators of the 2007 Scape Reddit, I think their response sums up what we can say about the safety of HDOS demonstratively. So, to paraphrase, where HDOS has not been approved by Jagex out of an abundance of caution, until a statement has been provided by Jagex, they're putting a ban on any post about it because they don't want to potentially endanger any unknowing players. That is, until Jagex says HDOS is safe to use, they're not going to even take the risk out of an abundance of caution. It's not to say that it's unsafe, it's just that there's the potential it could be unsafe, and they want to be super duper careful because it could put a lot of players in jeopardy. If you want to use HDOS before it's been approved by Jagex, be aware of the risk that something bad might come of it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's safe. I'm not going to put my neck on the line and say, it's safe to use, but I can't see why it shouldn't be. I mean, nobody would go to this effort. If they want to steal accounts, they just spam you with links and create a fake website. You wouldn't go and make a client like this, quite frankly. I mean, I could see the technical problems they've had to solve to make this work. It's not a small feat at all.
Another controversy is that HDOS is not open source. Without that, nobody can definitively know that there's nothing malicious written in there. That said, they are closed source for a good reason. Jagex has made it clear in the past that the type of code these clients require to be written, they don't want to be open source. I'll just let Matt K explain this one.
It's closed source. It's something I'm quite pleased about. One of the biggest issues we had with RuneLite was it being open source, because what open source RuneLite did is, although it gave confidence to people to use the client, what it also did is it allowed people to have a base of a client which they could then use to create botting clients from and cheat clients from. Because the difficult thing about creating a botting client is creating the client itself, and RuneLite just took that problem away. That's the issue with having an open source client. It's still a problem now. All the cheat clients are forked off RuneLite.
To this day, RuneLite is actually partially closed source because of this. Jagex forced their hand on removing the injector code from the public repo. So the team behind HDOS has said it'll remain closed source until they hear from Jagex, either allowing them to make it open source or telling them not to. Anyways, so far, what I see graphics-wise looks amazing. The HDOS team told me, so far the open beta launch has been very successful in their eyes because 95% of players have been able to get onto the client with no issues at all, and the issues that exist for the other users, they're currently looking into resolving, and I can see on their Discord server, there's already a few fixes for a few of those common issues. They also told me that it's been a pleasure to see something they made turn into something that many now consider their main go-to client. I'll leave links to their Discord server and the website in the description below. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button, consider subscribing, and don't forget about those RuneScape figures. I'll catch you guys in the next one.